Hi there, chaps. As you know, it's me, Dan, and I've got this guy, Peter Berry, isn't it? I'm really bad
Mhm.
with names, so I apologise.
Right, yeah.
I heard this guy when I was driving, listening to the radio or something like that, and it's very few people where I'm like, that guy, that person's an inspiration. And I have to say, I sat there in the car thinking, I need to contact this guy, because you live with dementia and Alzheimer's. Are they two separate things?
Well, Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. Dementia is, I suppose, an umbrella term, just as every vacuum cleaner is a Hoover, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's is a different type. There are so many different types of dementia, but I've got, I suppose, one of the most common types of the condition.
Wow. Okay. But the thing is, what generally inspires me is, like, every day you get up, it's like you just ooze. It's like your enjoyment of life just oozes out from it, and it's kind of contagious. Like, because I don't want to be blunt, but when I think of dementia, I don't want to upset you. I don't. I'm too
No.
good.
You
The
carry
minute
on.
I think about dementia, I'm like, okay, there you go. Let's put them in a wheelchair, put a blanket over them, and let them face the window for 20 hours a day.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you come along of just like, you completely and utterly smash that. It's just like, how on earth do you get up every day and just
Well,
enjoy life?
one thing is that people's perception of dementia is very different to the reality. People in my age group generally are physically able and fit. It's just we've got these different problems with our memory, and that affects things. People in later life obviously have the memory issue and stuff that goes with dementia, but they also have the physical disabilities in some cases as well, and that's what makes it different. I think that it's like all these things, a diagnosis which is life-changing does exactly that. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It changes your life. And like many people who are diagnosed with the same condition, we seem to go through this journey of depression. It's as though living well with a condition like mine, it's funny enough, because it is quite simple and easy to do. But for some reason, we don't seem to understand that in the first 12 months, 2 years or whatever. And most people get very depressed and probably don't come out of it. Me, myself, I was just that far away from not coming out of it. So it's a learning process. And I think once we as an individual create the tools ourselves to cope with depression, then, and our condition, then living well with a condition like mine is all of a sudden not, I wouldn't say easy, but it's not as hard as I first thought it was, if that makes sense.
No, I think it does, because it's one of those things. I've spent all of my life going, don't want labels, hate labels, labels are bad, blah, blah, blah. But actually, when it comes down to mental health, just my personal opinion,
Yeah.
once you've got that label or up to a point diagnosis, you can work from it.
Yes, yeah.
That's like your tick list. You go, okay, yeah, I've got ADHD, I've got dementia, I've got borderline personality. At least you can go, right, okay, this is me, this is my condition.
Yeah.
And somehow you can kind of live with rather than suffer from.
It's a little bit like running a cross-country race. You've got to have a start. You can't start the race unless you have a starting point. And I think that accepting the condition and having a label on it then becomes your start flag. Then you can run that race, and you can either come second, third, fourth, win or whatever, but you can come somewhere. But you've got to start. That's the thing. Yeah. And so many people don't actually get the chance of that starting point in their head, because everything is black, everything is dark, everything is gloom. There is no starting point for them.
So how did you get to your? Because did you say you nearly went into that depression? Did you say?
Yeah,
that?
Well, I was depressed, I think, for a long while, and I don't really think I understood that I was depressed until I got right to the edge of it, if that makes sense. I don't really think I fully understood what it was, which seems a silly thing to say now, but I didn't then. And I tried twice to commit suicide. And the last time that I had a go at it, it was right at that very point where I was just about to do it. I come to realize that nobody was helping us as a family, and nobody was helping me as an individual. And I suppose I'd lost all my sense of purpose. I'd lost everything in my head. And I thought, well, I knew what it's like to be at this place. I knew what it's like to stand, to be very blunt, in front of this rope. I knew what it was like.
Yeah.
So could I stop somebody else from doing that? Could I help somebody else from doing that? And I thought, wow, here's the thing. I know what it's like. So maybe I could. That was my first step of, I suppose, living with the condition, but also having a purpose, a reason to do something, to talk to people, to stop people from going down that journey that I had been, or making that journey shorter for them, to try to get to people to understand that life wasn't over with a condition like mine, or depression, come to that. Life was just going to be different. It wasn't going to be the end of it. And that's when I think the penny actually dropped, and that's when things started to change for me. But it took a long while to get to that stage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how do you prevent yourself from going back to that stage?
I've always been a very positive person, and I think the negative bit is still there on occasions. The shall we say, the dark shadows still follow on occasions. But I find getting out and cycling, as you see now, I'm dressed in my cycling top, and I cycled here to Debs. Cycling every day, or as many days as I can, that's the tool that helps me to, I suppose, clear my head and cycle away from my monster, as it was.
Yeah.
For me to be me and not be what it wants me to be.
I think it's absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you.
I generally do. I think it's because I can relate to what you're trying to do. And I've had it before, where, especially with me with borderline personality disorder, I had one of the videos got shared. I think it was on Reddit, some website. And I started reading the comments. It was like, oh, it's easy for him. Like he hasn't got it proper. It's not proper borderline. He's not properly depressed.
Yeah.
It's like, how dare you tell me what goes on in my head? And obviously, yeah, people know me through the MANUP and all this kind of stuff, but what they don't see is actually where I'm hating life with my wife, having that conversation of just like, I don't think I can do enough. Thankfully, it's not been for a long time, but I'm just sitting there like, do you get what I mean? I don't know where I'm going with that one, so I apologise. But
no, I think one of the troubles is that something like depression is, it's so different for everybody, but yet it's the same. And everybody's, I suppose, journey through that is different to the next person's. And I think that for me personally, it wasn't about, that I did this and I did that. It's really about showing other people that I'm just a normal guy. I'm nobody special. I'm just me, with, I suppose, a terminal condition, which is gradually getting worse as time goes on. But if I can do it, then anybody can. It's just having that little bit of power that's needed, that little bit of drive to do something, whether it's jogging, swimming, gardening, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be cycling. It doesn't have to be running thousands of miles or hundreds of miles. It just has to be doing something that somehow helps you to move forward. Everybody has to have tools in life. And sometimes we have to really, I suppose, go to the garden shed of our mind and pick the right tool off the right shelf to serve that purpose, and that's what it's all about. And the trouble with men is we don't speak enough about this. We're all a bit clammed up, really. We're all a bit strong and hard and powerful, and you know, stuff doesn't happen to us. Yeah, what are we, wimps? Yeah, bloody hell, you know. Yeah, and man up, basically. But at the end of the day, it does happen to us because we're all the same inside as everybody else. We're absolutely no different. So I really say to guys, talk about it. Don't hold it in. Talk to people about it. Sometimes I find, I mean, my wife has just turned up actually, and sometimes I find it's not easy to talk to my wife about this type of thing because she's too close to it. Yeah. It's easier to talk to a friend, and because somehow they're close enough, but they're also further enough away to not be really affected by what you say, but they're close enough to give you advice. And I always thought of my father once. He said to me once, you know, he said, if you ever want to speak to a teenager, he said, put them in a car and drive them around and speak to them. He said, don't look at them because you're removed from them while you're talking to them. And it's the same as talking to a friend as opposed to a close person like a husband, a wife, a partner, or whatever. Yeah, you're literally sitting in that car talking to them. You're not really connected as such, and that makes all the difference. So I always say to people, you know, try and talk to somebody, not so much a professional, because sometimes professionals are okay, but they're very professional. Sometimes a friend is better because you can actually talk better to them. Yeah, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think it's something what I've said a few times. It's just like eventually, if you don't start talking to your friends or even your missus or this day and age your boyfriend or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. The minute you start shutting out somebody else, that's when they're like, "Is it me?"
Yes, exactly.
And that's when they start getting their friends or the family involved. They're like, "No, it's not you. He's just being an idiot." And yeah, that's when that respect starts to fall apart.
Yes.
And that's when you've got whatever relationship problem as well as whatever demons you're trying to get rid of as well. Yes. Sometimes it's just easier just to go, do you know what, Peter, mate, I'm just feeling a bit naff at the moment, mate.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Yeah. And it's not really complicated. It's somehow we make it complicated in our own minds. And really it's a complicated condition. But sometimes talking about it is not that complicated, if it makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it's that old saying, isn't it? Was it a problem shared, a problem halved? Or...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Actually,
yeah.
I used to be quite anti that, going, "Oh, what a load of bollocks that is." But actually, it is true, though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
And today, I've had many conversations with MANUP, through MANUP and because of MANUP. And actually, when they say, "Oh, I spoke to my whoever," they're like, "Actually, it didn't turn out to be that bad."
No.
And then they feel stupid because they didn't say something sooner. And actually, it's whatever's going on in our head can easily be halved if we just open our mouths.
I think we're all a little bit guilty. I mean, I ran a business for many years, and I think sometimes that you would hear of people who had said that they'd been depressed or whatever, you know, and they would say, "Oh, I've been depressed." And I personally used to think to myself, "Oh, for Christ's sakes, what's the matter with you? Get a grip. What, you got the arse?" You know, I was very guilty of that. Exactly. Yeah. Until you go through that yourself, then you actually realize, wow, hang on a minute, this is something completely different. And I feel quite very guilty that I have thought that about other people. At the time, I didn't feel guilty, but I think I do now, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think the main thing is you've learned from it.
Yes. Yeah.
Isn't it really? And I think that's one of those things, especially with mental health. Actually, and I've had other people that said, "Oh, actually, yeah, maybe I've got mental health wrong a lot. I judge people," but they cling on to how they used to be rather than what they are now.
Yes.
And do you know, I've sat there in a HR department years ago, and they're like, Dan, we might have to sack you because you didn't tell us you were depressed. You didn't tell us you was on antidepressants years ago. And it's one of the things I'd actually forgotten that I got prescribed them for like years ago. But even now, that same HR person, they won't talk to me.
No, and yet, you know, in all honesty, if they had experienced something very similar, then their outlook would be completely different. I mean,
Yeah.
we all change. None of us are the same as we were when we were 15.
Yeah.
Our minds change, our outlook on lives change, and the way we view things change. Sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. But yeah, we all change eventually at some stage.
No, exactly. Yeah, we just have to kind of enjoy the ride the best we can, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's what I've learned very much to live in the moment, and I think a lot of that is because my short-term memory is not that good, so I can't remember what I did yesterday, and I don't really know what we're going to do tomorrow, and I'm not 100% sure what we're going to do today. So I'm always living in this little bit now. I'm like a horse with blinkers. I'm just looking here. And because I'm forced to do that, I think that in a way, I'm quite privileged to do that, because it gives me a sense of now. And I think somehow, in a funny sort of way, that's how we're supposed to live, because originally man didn't worry about next week or next month, because we never had calendars. So all they did is they lived for today. And I think somehow we've lost that with modern life. And I think one thing dementia has given me is that ability to live right now. And somehow that seems to be a pretty cool thing to do, you know, and other people, I think, envy that part of it a little bit.
I do, you know, I'll be honest, I think I do.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of jealous about it, because actually, funny enough, my wife Faye, she was like, "Oh, could you ask him what his drive is every day?" I was like, well, what a weird question. Actually, it's not a weird question, but I asked her, I went, why'd you say that? And she was just like, well, surely you won't remember what you've got to do for the day.
No, I haven't. I don't know. I know that we're cycling today somewhere, and I think Teresa, my wife, who sits here, did tell us where we were going, but because I've been talking to you, that's sort of gone out of my head, and I can't really remember. But it doesn't matter, because I'll go somewhere. We'll have a good time. It'll be fine, and you know what? Whatever, you know. If it rains, it rains. If the sun shines, great. And well, whatever happens, you know. And I think that's taken me a long while to get to that, and I think without dementia, I wouldn't be at that place. I look at it as though the condition takes a lot from me, but I try to take a bit from it, and that's one of the things that I take from my condition. So let's just say that depression takes a lot from you. Try and take from it, try and use that to somehow gain something. And then somehow it doesn't make the dementia, in my case, seem quite bad, really. It sort of somehow makes it a little less of an ugly monster. It gives me a little bit of power over it. And I suppose it's the same with depression. If you can find a chink in your depression's armor, then you've won that little battle for that day. You might not win the war, but you're going to win little battles, and they're the good things, and they're the bits that you've got to clasp onto, really, I think.
Absolutely. I'm completely speechless. It's rare on here, but I'm absolutely speechless, really. I'm kind of wondering whether you want a job at MANUP, if I'm honest. I think you'd do a much better job at getting through to people than I would. I think I think you're a star, actually. I think your drive would give many other people just a bit of a healthy kick.
Well, I'll tell you what we could do. You could have a word with Debs, and we could have some sort of, I don't know, every couple of months or every monthly catch up or something like that, just for a really, really short little catch up. How does that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But just before we draw to a close, we've gone over that 20. But if I could, I don't know nothing about you. You're my only source of information for Alzheimer's and dementia. I'm trying to read a bit more about it, but I'm not going to pretend I'm going to sit there studying it, which I'm thankful about, actually. Absolutely thankful. But I think where I'm going with this one is, somebody's watching this and they can relate somehow, either for themselves or for a family member or stuff like that. What would you say for them to do?
Well, especially with dementia, everybody's dementia is different. Once you've seen one person, you've only seen one with the condition. But the past is always something that is good for people with dementia. Use the past. You know that person, you know their history. Use their history, their work, their hobbies, or anything to bring that to the future and to help people to remember stuff. I can remember what happened years ago, but I can't remember what happened this morning. So you can use the past. That's the same, I think, with any form of depression. Everybody's got bad bits in their lives, but they've also got good bits. Draw on them good bits. Use that as the fuel to power you forward. I think that's what I personally do. I use all the good stuff to get rid of the bad shit, basically. And that's what you got to do. I can say shit, can't I?
Yeah, no, absolutely fine. Yeah, we're not bothered about all of that kind of stuff. It is we're very much say your mind and free speech, but we're not that free speech of knobhead. Because you do get.
I would never use it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But you do get that end of it, don't you? Where it's like, oh, it's only banter. It's like, no, you're being a dick. But anyway, I'll digress with that one. So I know you've written a couple of books as well. Like what are they called?
Yeah, funny enough, Deb's had some here. Well, I didn't actually write them. Actually, I gave Deb's, my really good friend here, the information, and she did written them, as they say. So the first one is Slow Puncher, and I think it's about. I mean, I've never read it because I can read, but I can't remember what I've read. So I've never actually read it. But I think it's about a story of a year in my life. And how the good, the bad, and the ugly bits about dementia, the funny bits, which there are some funny bits. We have to learn to laugh at our condition, whatever condition it is. If you laugh at it, it just makes it somewhat easier. And I do that a lot. Because I'm allowed to laugh at dementia. It's absolutely fine. So that's that. Living well with dementia, Slow Puncher. And another one is, I'm going to ask Deb to explain this. No, she says no. Well, this one is little poems about dementia, wrapped up with some pictures, which are relevant to them. I used to text little bits to Deb's about, I suppose, and I think it's relevant to anybody who's living in some dark places, really, if I'm really honest. Yeah. And Deb's just put them all together over a couple of years, I think. Yeah, a couple of years. So, just basically poems with some photos. It's sort of that sort of thing. And
that's Felix, though, isn't it?
Could be. I think Felixstowe. They're all local, like Cove Hive and places like that, local to here. And there's a bit of a write-up in the front about it. And I think they've been accepted very, very well. And I know this one has gone into a second print. I'm going to say they're well worth a read, because they are. They're not really just about a guy with dementia. It's about teaching people, learning people how to cope with stuff.
And that's
and I think it's just something a little bit different. So, do go out and buy them.
No, good stuff. So it's just a topic we've never covered on MANUP, and I'm thankful I don't know that much, and even more thankful I don't know anyone other than yourself. And I mean that in a nice way, but I am thankful. I wouldn't want anyone to have dementia at all. I don't want anyone to have anything. But
also, I believe I'm right in saying, somebody might correct me here, that I think if you are depressed in any form, I think that can affect your memory as well. So maybe people who do have issues with depression might be able to relate to a type of dementia, because they haven't got it as dementia, but somehow they are living it in a way. So they might be able to relate to more of what's being said in the book than other people, actually. So it might be more relevant.
That was a really good call. Let me just hit that thing. I'll do the whole taggy thing. Let me hit that stop record button. 1 second.